It was a disaster scene. Tire tracks marred the lawn in the yard, and the flower bed that was supposed to be neatly arranged with red brick was a mess. The flowers that should have been blooming were scattered mercilessly on the ground. Red and white petals were dirted with soil, their beauty nowhere to be seen. Both my granddaughter Sarah and I could only stand in shock at the situation. Looking further back, Mia's car, which should have been parked in the backyard, was there. From the look of the tire tracks, it was clear to anyone that Mia's car had wreaked havoc on the garden. "Oh, what are you doing standing around like that?" Mia came down from the car, smirking as she approached us, stepping on the pedals with her high heels. "What do you mean, what's wrong? Why did you drive the car over here? It's a shortcut to the station from the front door. I was thinking of going out, but I decided against it today." She laughed without a hint of remorse. She had no intention of going out, she did this on purpose. "How terrible!" Sarah's eyes were moist as she spoke in a soft voice, appealing to Mia, who then burst into loud laughter. What a dreadful thing to do. The flower bed that a grade schooler had spent hours, days to complete. I was furious. I felt as if my head was boiling, ready to lash out at Mia at any moment. But then, looking at the scattered red petals on the ground, I realized something. Could it be that flower? Picking up a petal gently, I was certain. And then, with a refreshingly sincere smile I've never had before, I told Mia. "Oh, thank you. So you were tidying up the flowers for me?" "My name is Sally. I'm turning 54 this year. My late brother had a son named Tom. Tom, though my own son, is a responsible young man, working hard at a reputable company. Tom married for the first time about 10 years ago. His partner was a straightforward, easy-to-talk-to, wonderful woman. Though their home was a bit far from ours, she would come over to my place, complaining, 'My husband is always away on business trips, and I'm so bored,' and she would do the housework or keep me company. It didn't take long for me to grow as fond of her as if she were my own daughter. After a while, Tom and his wife had a girl named Sarah. Even as a toddler, Sarah would reach out to me, laughing joyfully, and I couldn't help but adore her. Tom and I believed this happiness would last forever. But things didn't go as well as we hoped. Tom's wife fell seriously ill not long after giving birth to Sarah. Despite a long battle with her illness, she passed away a few years ago. Why did such a bright and kind person have to leave this world? What saved us from our grief was the young Sarah. I can't count how many times my granddaughter's smile has saved me. Seeing his daughter grow every day, Tom thought he couldn't just mourn forever and decided to raise her by himself. Though I helped as much as I could, I believed there must be something only a mother could provide. During this time, Tom met a woman at work who got along with him well, Mia. Though she was 7 years his junior, being 23 at the time, she made several advances. Initially confused, Tom didn't seem to mind it, especially as he found Mia's assertiveness reminiscent of his late wife. At one point, Tom confided in me. "The word remarriage keeps popping into my head. I feel terrible about it, though. If it means you and Sarah can be happy, then I'm all for it." With my support, it seemed like he made up his mind. And so, Tom ended up remarrying Mia. With the remarriage, Tom proposed that we live together. It seems he was worried about me living alone since I had a stroke over a decade ago. I could manage daily life, but due to the after effects, I had to quit the flower arranging classes I had been taking since my youth. Seeing how down I was, not being able to do what I loved with flowers, he must have thought it through. I felt grateful and guilty at the same time. Having lived with my in-laws when I was younger, I knew all too well the discomfort and difficulties that come with it. Living with others is more painful than one might think. I refused several times, worrying that I might be a burden to Mia. However, since Mia assured me in front of me that it was no problem, I gratefully agreed to move in together. As a result, Mia and I ended up living under the same roof. I was looking forward to it, knowing Sarah liked her, but Mia and I didn't get along at all. Having had a good relationship with the previous wife only added to my confusion about feeling out of place with Mia. First off, it appeared Mia had a habit of spending frivolously. I heard she was a woman who originally didn't buy brand name items and lived moderately. But after marrying, Mia was different. Having quit her job upon marriage, she started taking lessons in tea ceremony and flower arranging with Tom's money. She began buying expensive tools for these hobbies, such as tea bowls, tea caddy, and high-quality vases for flower arranging. Even a single tool was quite pricey, but she always bought the better ones, bragging about them to the neighbors and her classmates. I've never seen her practicing tea ceremony or flower arranging at home. The tools she bought are just gathering dust in the storage. I wonder if this is normal nowadays, and I'm just unaware. I couldn't help but see it as her playing the role of the elegant young wife. Still, not wanting to worsen our mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship, I didn't say much. I had other concerns as well. Mia seemed to dislike the fact that I was physically disabled. Ever since the stroke, my hands haven't moved the way I want them to. I can manage daily life, but the finer tasks are difficult. I knew Mia was mocking me behind my back. Because I overheard her telling her friends and classmates, taking care of my mother-in-law is so hard. Despite leaving all the household chores to me, it felt wrong to be talked about like that. When my mother-in-law says this is better, or that's better, and tells you to do the work instead. That's what she'd say when she thought I might hear. I even thought about discussing it with Tom. However, Tom's job involves a lot of traveling. Since the remarriage, he hasn't been home much, possibly as a rebound from asking him to reduce his business trips before. Moreover, Mia only does some housework when Tom is home, as if to deceive him. Complaining might only worsen the problem. I was also concerned about Sarah. When she's at home with Mia, she seems uncomfortable. I thought she was just nervous about living with a new family member, but it went on for too long. I also noticed that Mia's look at Sarah was the same as when she mocked me. Sadly, there was no SOS from Sarah. "Sarah, is something wrong?" I casually asked her. Each time, Sarah would look puzzled and then quickly smile, saying, "No, nothing's wrong, Grandma." Is it my imagination that her smile seems forced? Maybe it's just because I'm the mother-in-law and I'm not supposed to like the daughter-in-law living with us. Is this what people mean when they say mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationships are like this? Fortunately, my concerns about living together are only with Mia. Sarah and Tom are very caring towards me, despite my disability. Especially Sarah, who seems interested in flowers. Since she found out I used to do flower arranging, she often asks me about how to arrange flowers. That was a healing time for me. On a bright Sunday, I was getting ready to go out for a doctor's visit. I had to be monitored for high blood pressure and poor blood circulation due to a stroke. As I was about to leave the house with my bag, my granddaughter Sarah came running to me. "Hey, Grandma! I've thought of a special present to make you feel better." "A present?" "Yeah. Look forward to it." With those words, she opened the door and stepped outside ahead of me with a light step. Given that I had been hospitalized as well as visiting the doctor, kind-hearted Sarah must have been worried about my health. Her smile at that moment seemed genuine, and I felt happy. After that, Sarah began to spend more time in the garden after school or late at night, fussing over something. Driven by curiosity, I approached her in the garden one night after the sun had set. "What are you doing?" Startled by my sudden appearance, Sarah blushed and said, "I'm making a flower bed." Perhaps influenced by me, she had been in touch with flowers daily. Despite being a grade schooler, the flower bed was taking shape. Feeling a bit shy, but wanting to cheer me up, Sarah filled my heart with warmth. How lucky I was to live with such a kind granddaughter. I eagerly awaited the day the flower bed would be completed. But it seems I wasn't the only one who knew about Sarah's flower bed project. Mia had noticed Sarah working in the garden after school and at night. Upon hearing the reason for the flower bed, Mia praised Sarah excessively for her wonderful act. I was chilled to the bone. Because I noticed that her eyes weren't smiling. A bad feeling washed over me. I could only pray that my premonition would not come true. Contrary to my hopes, the day the flower bed was completed, an incident occurred. "Grandma! The flower bed is ready." On another sunny Sunday, Sarah came to me with a smile, announcing the completion of the flower bed. With a spring in my step, I reached for the doorknob to go out to the garden. That's when I heard a loud engine noise and the sound of something breaking. The noise continued for a while, and Sarah and I were too frightened to move from the entrance. "Grandma, I'm scared." Sarah and I held hands tightly, waiting for the noise to stop. Finally, when the noise subsided, we cautiously opened the door to look out into the garden. It was a disaster scene. Tire tracks marred the lawn, and the flower bed, which was supposed to be neatly arranged with red brick, was a mess. The flowers that should have been blooming were mercilessly scattered on the ground. The red and white petals were dirted with soil, their beauty nowhere to be seen. Both Sarah and I could only stand in shock at the situation. Looking further back, Mia's car, which should have been parked in the backyard, was there. From the look of the tire tracks, it was clear to anyone that Mia's car had wreaked havoc on the garden. "Hey, what are you doing standing around like that?" Mia came down from the car, smirking as she approached us. Stepping on the pedals with her high heels. "What do you mean? Why did you drive the car over here? It's a shortcut to the station from the front door. I was thinking of going out, but I decided against it today." She laughed without a hint of remorse. She had no intention of going out, she did this on purpose. It became clear to me then how much Mia detested me. And that she also harbored deep dislike for Sarah, her stepdaughter, in her heart. Come to think of it, I now recall. There were times when Sarah's belongings went missing, or when Sarah, who is usually kind and gentle, was scolded for mischief she hadn't done. All that might have been Mia's doing, hating Sarah. I had wondered about it before, but now it makes sense. Sarah's face, frightened as she looked at Mia, told me that my suspicions were not unfounded. "Horrible!" Sarah's eyes welled up with tears as she appealed in a small voice. Mia, seemingly pleased with herself, laughed loudly. She wasn't even trying to hide her disdain anymore. What a terrible thing to do. A flower bed that a grade schooler had spent hours, days to complete. Even if you were given such flowers, it would be a nuisance, so it's just as well. I should be thanked, really. Mia spoke words one wouldn't expect from someone who practices flower arranging, as if she couldn't see our reactions at all. I was furious. Wrapped in a sensation as if my head was boiling, I felt like I could lash out at Mia any moment. However, when Sarah tugged at the hem of my clothes, I snapped back to reality. With tears brimming in her large eyes, she desperately shook her head. "Grandma, no. I'm okay." Seeing her like this, I managed to calm down. Even after regaining my composure, the devastation around us was unchanged. But then, looking at the scattered red petals on the ground, I realized something. Could it be that flower? Picking up a petal gently, I was certain. And then, with a refreshingly sincere smile I've never had before, I told Mia. "Oh, thank you. So you were tidying up the flowers for me?" I think my tone was quite clear. "What?" Mia was taken aback. It was natural since she was expecting anger from me. I continued, looking down at the petal in my hand. "Because this is a cyclamen, right?" I had realized that the flower Sarah planted was a cyclamen. Cyclamen, with its variety of colors like red, pink, and white, is a charming flower. However, it's also known for being an inappropriate gift for the ill due to associations with bad luck implied by its name. Although I had taught Sarah how to grow and arrange flowers, I hadn't taught her about the meanings or taboos, thinking it would be too complex for her young mind. So, she must have chosen it simply for its beauty. It might be considered somewhat inappropriate for someone who is ill. "Mia, you realized it was a cyclamen, and acted the villain to teach us it was a bad idea?" Mia looked back at me, bewildered. As Mia and I were facing off, a person arrived at the gate. She was a woman dressed neatly, exuding elegance and grace. "Teacher!" Mia exclaimed in surprise. The woman was the teacher of the flower arranging class Mia attended. Her cool gaze probably held a hint of sternness. "Mia, good day." "Hello. What brings you here?" Mia asked, her voice faltering under the teacher's stern tone, creating a solemn atmosphere. "I had an appointment nearby and came running when I heard a loud noise. I saw everything." "No, this is..." Mia, caught in the act by the last person she wanted to see. Her voice rose in panic. The teacher was the most renowned flower arranger in the area. Mia knew this and had started attending her classes. "That's enough. I don't want to hear any excuses. Sally has been attending my class for a long time. We have a long history." "Huh?" Yes, the teacher was right. The flower arranging class I had attended was the same one Mia was going to. Since I hadn't attended since the day I had the stroke, it was natural Mia didn't know. I was the first student the teacher taught when she opened her class. In a way, I was her first disciple. I had secretly greeted her when I found out my son's wife had started attending her class. However, Mia's reputation among the other students wasn't good. Initially envious of her expensive tools, people grew tired of her boasting and drifted away. The teacher had visited my home several times to hear about Mia's behavior. Never crossing paths with Mia, who often went out during the day. She had seen Sarah working on the flower bed. "Are you making a flower bed?" "Yes. I wanted to cheer Grandma up because she loves flowers, so I'm trying my best." Touched by this, the teacher had given her advice several times. She hadn't known about the plant types of flowers, though. As I recalled these moments, the conversation between Mia and the flower arranging teacher continued. "No, there's a deep reason behind this," Mia began, scrambling for various excuses, but the facts seen by the teacher remained unchanged. Moreover, the teacher had noticed that Mia hadn't realized the flower was a cyclamen. "A person who cannot cherish not only flowers but also family has no place in my class," she told unequivocally. It was an expulsion. "I had high hopes since you were Sally's daughter-in-law, being my first disciple." "First disciple? My mother-in-law?" Mia looked humiliated. Possibly frustrated at the thought that the mother-in-law she had belittled held a higher position than herself. Disappointment was all she could feel, looking at people only through their titles. I was more concerned about Sarah, who had suffered much greater emotional wounds than Mia. Fortunately, Sarah seemed calmer than before. "It's a pity about the flower bed, but shall we rebuild it? Can I join you this time?" At that, Sarah nodded slightly. After the teacher left with a graceful bow, we returned home. It wasn't long before rumors of Mia's expulsion from the flower arranging class spread throughout the neighborhood. Furthermore, because it was part of the same 3 arts as tea ceremony, the news seemed to have reached the tea ceremony teacher as well. She was also told not to come back. Naturally, the story of the expulsion spread, detailing how Mia had destroyed her stepdaughter's flower bed out of spite and insulted the flower arranging teacher's setup. Mia tried to make excuses to those around her, but given her usually arrogant attitude, it seemed no one was willing to listen. The rumors had probably reached Tom, who had returned from a business trip. He questioned Sarah and me and learned the whole truth from the teacher. He became aware of the daily mistreatment we had faced. Looking back, I regret not consulting Tom sooner. Perhaps Sarah would not have been affected. Furthermore, it came to light that Mia had been verbally abusing Sarah daily and had taken the allowance and New Year's money I had given her. No wonder she seemed uncomfortable at home every day. I regret not noticing sooner. Upon further investigation, it was discovered that Mia had also unilaterally cancelled an educational insurance policy, using the funds for her hobbies and luxury items. Tom was deeply troubled by the hardship he had caused us. He was furious at Mia's treatment. "Divorce. What you did to Sarah and my mother. I'll sue you." He demanded a divorce from Mia, seeking compensation for the misused funds and our emotional distress. Faced with the demand for divorce and compensation, Mia, realizing she had no chance of winning, frantically begged Sarah and me for forgiveness. "I'm sorry. I won't do it again. Sarah, you'd be lonely without me, right? And you need me because of your disability, don't you? Please, forgive me." Sarah hid behind Tom, terrified. I couldn't possibly forgive Mia for ruining my granddaughter's feelings. "I'm sorry, but I can't forgive you." Mia was divorced and had to leave the house. Moreover, she had to take out loans to pay the compensation. Disowned by her own parents, who told her not to get involved, she had no choice but to repay the debt on her own. Having lived a life of leisure, she must be finding it tough. Apparently, Mia had always aspired to be a housewife. Hence why she approached Tom, who had a relatively high income for his age. Even after starting work, she seemed to be constantly in trouble with interpersonal relationships. The reason I know so much is that she came to our house trying to reconcile, sharing her situation. After being fired from several jobs in a row and being in dire financial straits, she tearfully spoke of her hardships, far from the elegant young lady she aspired to be. Sarah and I were exhausted by the constant doorbell ringing during the day. Every time Mia came, we had to call the police to send her away, and Tom says it looks like we'll have to sue her again because of that. To prevent further interference from Mia, we sold the house and moved. "I'm really sorry for not realizing Mia's malice and causing you and Sarah such fear." He requested a transfer to a department focused on remote work, which was readily accepted by his understanding superiors, increasing his time with Sarah significantly. "I've realized that more than a mother's presence, I need to be involved with Sarah myself." "That's right. Sarah's smile is the best proof. Spending more time with Tom, who was often away on business trips, Sarah seems to have more smiles than before. Perhaps it's due to my diligent rehabilitation, or maybe it's the increased time spent with my son and granddaughter. My stroke aftereffects are gradually improving. Even the doctor at the hospital was impressed by the great progress. When I reported the good progress to Sarah and Tom, they were overjoyed, jumping up with happiness. Now, we are cultivating seasonal flowers together in the new flower bed Sarah made at our new home, teaching her the meanings of the flowers along the way. When Tom has time, he joins us in the garden. The flower arranging teacher, who occasionally helps us, has invited Sarah to join the lessons, emphasizing that the essence of flower arranging is the spirit one puts into the flowers and people, and she believes Sarah has what it takes to excel in it. Flower arranging, which brings happiness to those who see it, is indeed suitable for a granddaughter who cares about her family. Sarah herself is eager to try, saying, "I want to go for a trial lesson next time." Tom is also enthusiastic about making the arrangements for her participation. If my hands get a bit better, I might return to flower arranging too. Looking forward to practicing together with Sarah, I plan to continue my rehabilitation. Though challenges may lie ahead, I pray for the continuation of this peaceful life with Tom and Sarah. "Grandma, the flowers have bloomed." As if responding to my feelings, the flowers in the garden gently swayed.